afternoon, but I feel perhaps you were maybe the architects of your own downfall in that first half a wee bit.
Yeah, listen, to lose any game 4-0 is obviously really disappointing, but from a tactical perspective, we didn't manage to get it right. You know, we'd worked on certain aspects, we didn't manage to execute those aspects, and ultimately that's on me. You know, the one thing that I think we've been good at up until this point is the distances between the players and the team, and we got that wrong today. We jumped and pressed at the wrong times, ultimately causing problems between the lines, and Aberdeen really jumped on that and gave us problems. In my opinion, it wasn't a lack of effort from the players, far from it. I thought they ran hard, many of them today. It was just the execution of the game plan. And ultimately, when you don't execute the game plan, it's on my head. It's on my head.
You had a couple of half chances early on as well. I mean, it wasn't as if you were out of the game in that first 20 minutes, but the second part of the set, the first half, is where obviously just the roof fell in.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, when you lose goals like you do, you then sometimes lose concentration and discipline, and we lost that a little bit in the game. But as I've said, the players ran hard today. There was certainly not a throwing in of the towel, far from that. It's just we didn't get things right. Certain aspects that I think we've trained well, but we just didn't manage to execute them. And I don't know if that's maybe that we're finding ourselves flipping from a number of systems just now, playing 3-4-3, 3-5-2, and then 4-4-2 today, and we just didn't manage to execute the system properly today. And as I keep saying, when you don't do that, because the players worked hard, then it's on me.
Can any part of that be put the fact that Aberdeen, perhaps in a false position, they hadn't been playing well, but they clearly have lots of good players?
No, there's no doubt about Aberdeen's quality. Absolutely no doubt about that. But I said coming here that I felt we trained well. I felt that there was a real belief around the group. And I think you've seen that in the first 10 minutes of the game. We started the game particularly well. We started the game with real intent. We just got a little bit excited. We got a little bit excited. We tried to pressure the game at the wrong times. And ultimately, if you do that against a good team, then they'll find the solutions, and they did. There was far too many moments of transition when they've got between us. And as I've said, during those transitions, there's no doubt the players worked exceptionally hard to get back under the ball, but there was too many of them, and as a result, it was a difficult afternoon.
Clark picked out the penalty, the handball. I don't know which way these things are going to go. Sitting watching in the ground, have you got any complaints about it?
I genuinely didn't see it, so. Of course I've got complaints, I felt there was no intent from Cam, and it's a decisive moment. It gives them, obviously, their first goal. It gives them impetus at home, confidence at home, and that was something that we didn't want to give them. So it was a pivotal moment, but still there was a lot more that we could have done.
You spoke about the systems, Stephen, but some of them, no doubt, some of the goals were down to individual errors.
There was individual aspects about it, and I'm not saying there wasn't moments where as individuals we must do better. Of course there is, but there was a lot of tactical detail that caused us problems today that I didn't like, and we didn't manage to secure today, and that's disappointing, because I pride myself on that. I pride myself on organisation. I pride myself on us being cohesive and disciplined and understand our roles and responsibility. That's a big part of what I believe in. And today we didn't look that team that I suppose that we have seen in a number of games. But today, again, and it's maybe that we thought we were further ahead of ourselves than we are when we wanted to go after Aberdeen a little bit more, where we've played a little bit more pragmatic up until just now. But again, these decisions are all taken by myself, so I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed with the result, but I'm disappointed with some of the tactical detail.
Clark's been in, I suppose, he picked out, felt the team was too passive in terms of tackles and stuff like that. Do you feel that was part of it?
Listen, you can always improve on certain things, as I've said, but part of that was that we weren't cohesive enough. meaning that we didn't get pressure at the right times. And you know, part of that was that we didn't carry out the detail. We pressed them too high early on, which suited where their 10s play. When I wanted us to stay a little bit more controlled and then press on the triggers that we'd worked towards, we didn't manage to get those bits right. But ultimately, if you don't get those bits right, it's on me. So I understand what Clark's saying, but equally I'm disappointed with the cohesiveness of the group and the way we function tactically.
It looked like there was a few fans leaving in the first half. Can you understand their disappointment?
Of course I can. There's no complaints. You know, they pay their money, they travel up here, they want to see a good performance from a Dundee side, and they didn't see that today.
Simon Murray looked a frustrated figure when he came off. There was a bit of reaction there. Is that what you want to see, or is it just
No, of course. And we had a concern on Simon. You know, at half time he had a little bit of a hamstring problem. He's had his illness, so it's understandable. But of course, frustration is part and parcel of the game. You know, we all came here genuinely believing we could get some form of result, and I mean that. There was real confidence in the group going into today's game, and the disappointment is that we didn't execute that. And when you don't execute it, then there's going to be frustration and disappointment.
You've got a couple of weeks now, Stephen, ahead of another very tricky game, but does that give you a kind of a nice window to work on what you really want to get set up for this match against Celtic?
I hope so, yeah. I think that as a staff we need to have, you know, discussions about moving forward. We have to decide on a number of things that I think really are important, so we can nail certain aspects of how we're going to play. So it's going to be a tough couple of weeks, because you always want to go into international break on a positive, and we've gone into international break far from that. But we have to utilise the time to improve on certain things.
Lucky. Thank you for speaking.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.